Hello everyone. We're going to get started here in a few minutes and let some more attendees roll into this, and we'll get started here soon. Thank you for waiting, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for joining us today for our webcast, Overcoming Mobile Forensics, Introduction to EnCase Mobile Investigator. My name is Udeshi with Guidance Software. I'll be your host and moderator for this session. I'm with the product marketing team and focus specifically on EnCase Forensic, EnCase Endpoint Investigator, and EnCase Mobile Investigator. I've been with Guidance for about 2 years now and began my career here in market research, analyzing the digital forensic and security industry. We have an excellent guest joining us today, expert trainer at Guidance Software, Carl Purser. Carl?
Hello. As Raj said, my name is Carl, and I work in the UK for Guidance Software Training. Been with Guidance since November 2010. Prior to that, started my career with digital forensics in 2002 with the Metropolitan Police in London, with one of their high crime units. Many examinations there. I've made devices, including some smart devices. In terms of other background, had training in file systems from NTFS, Macintosh, HFS, and then somehow obtained an MSc from the University of Glamorgan in information security and computer crime. Thank you.
Thanks, Carl. Before we get right into it, just a couple of housekeeping items. We have our EnCase Mobile Investigator product brief freely available in this webcast. which provides details on our product offering for mobile forensics. It can be downloaded using the resource widget at the bottom of your screen. As always, we appreciate any and all feedback on our webinars. We ask attendees to complete the survey that is populated in this webcast so we continue to provide the kind of content our viewers will find appreciative and useful. At the end of this webcast, we'll have a Q&A session. And if you have any questions during the webinar, please submit those questions electronically using the Q&A window on your screen, and we will also address as many questions as time permits at the end of the webcast. For any unanswered questions, guidance can be contacted at experts@guide.com, through our website, guidancesoftware.com, or by calling 866-229-9199. Now with that, let's go ahead and get started. So I'm going to start off talking about some of the challenges in mobile forensics. Mobile technology and the evolution of the Internet of Things are changing the way we live and interact, as many of you know. There are over 7 billion mobile devices globally, such as phones, tablets, GPS units, watches, and drones in use today. That's more mobile devices on this planet than people. As members of society continue to use these devices, crime on the street and even in the enterprise continue to rise. With this, there has been a dramatic increase of digital evidence left in mobile devices. This is changing the way investigators approach their cases. Now, few people dispute the value of mobile device evidence in criminal investigations. The images and videos, text messages, call logs, and other types of data have proven their worth, often showing undisputed proof of a suspect's involvement in a variety of crimes. If you're listening to this webinar, you're likely to be encountering more mobile devices in your investigations than ever before. There are several challenges when it comes to mobile forensics. One of the key challenges is that there is an overwhelming and constant rise of new mobile devices being released into the market. So with that, the ability to gather evidence from the latest devices, mobile operating systems, and even mobile apps is becoming increasingly difficult and sometimes even impossible. Countering encrypted devices that make it difficult to begin a forensic acquisition is something investigators are faced with as well. Gathering the evidence they need to close their case may be at risk because of limited accessibility into a device. Finding all relevant evidence is also a critical challenge for investigations involving mobile devices. Relevant evidence can be found in deleted data within the device, in a user's cloud account, or even a photo. It's imperative for investigators to collect this evidence from those sources to analyze and prepare a report for their key stakeholders. Finally, there is the challenge of understanding the significant differences of computer forensics and mobile forensics. Mobile device manufacturers frequently change operating systems, file structures, mobile device form factors, pin outputs, and cables. The amount of new mobile devices with different operating systems from many different manufacturers makes it a huge challenge for forensic investigators to keep up with current and even new mobile devices. Investigators should be practicing a different forensic process for mobile device forensics compared to traditional computer forensics. With computer forensics, an image of the original hard drive is worked on by the forensic analyst so that no data should be altered by the forensic investigator, which should be relied upon in court. With mobile device forensics, the original device is required to be powered on and investigated in order to obtain the data from the mobile device. When powering on the device, data will be altered on the device, breaking that level of forensic soundness. As mobile device analysts need to access the original data, this falls under an ACPO guideline. In circumstances where the forensic investigator finds it necessary to access the original data, then the forensic investigator must be competent and have the ability to give evidence regarding the relevance and implications of their actions. Now, when speaking with our customers, we found that they were encountering mobile devices in the majority of their examinations and uncovered these challenges. They even stated that 9 out of 10 investigations they conducted involved a mobile device. Efficient and timely investigations are a priority for not only our customers, but for investigators around the world, both in law enforcement and in the enterprise. We understand that the use case for corporate investigators differ from investigators in the law enforcement community, such as HR policy violations and employee fraud cases. With our new mobile forensics offering, EnCase Mobile Investigator, investigators will be empowered by having an end-to-end solution for digital forensics on hard drives and mobile devices to get them back on the fast track to case closed. In this webinar, we will talk about how EnCase Mobile Investigator can solve your challenges, followed by a use case and product demonstration by Carl Purser. He'll also walk you through the product and showcase how easy it is to use so that you can conduct your investigations in a seamless and efficient manner. Now, let's get started. EnCase Mobile Investigator has been developed to address the challenges that I just went through and to help the forensic community with the investigations that they're faced with on a day-to-day basis. With this new offering, investigators will be able to collect from over 25 device types, ranging from smartphones to tablets, watches to drones, and much more. Also, 26,000 mobile device profiles are supported, making this the broadest support in the industry. We released this product to be reliable, fast, and most importantly, easy to use. We at Guidance also wanted to provide you with the depth of visibility you need to see all evidence, whether it be from an app, in a cloud account, in an image, or even deleted by the user. We understood that investigators needed a better mobile forensic solution than what they're using today, and we took the core principles of our industry-standard computer forensics products and translated them into EnCase Mobile Investigator, which we will walk through shortly. Before I pass it on to Carl to give a product demonstration, I'm going to quickly highlight the benefits of EnCase Mobile Investigator. Whether you're an investigator in law enforcement or in the commercial space, EnCase Mobile Investigator provides you with 3 key benefits. First one being ease of use. Ease of use, breadth of support, and enhanced visibility are the key benefits that make up EnCase Mobile Investigator. Investigations with mobile devices is challenging enough as it is, so we wanted to make sure we deliver an easy-to-use product so that the investigator can have a seamless workflow and an intuitive review of mobile evidence. We also wanted to deliver broad support of mobile devices, including IoT devices such as drones and GPS devices. As we continue to update the devices and operating systems that we support, we will be looking at broader IoT support as these devices will become increasingly important to provide things like a suspect's location. And smartphone operating system support is regularly updated, and every time iOS, Android, or other smartphone operating systems release a new update, EnCase Mobile Investigator will be able to support them shortly thereafter, so that you'll feel confident in your ability to acquire and review the crucial evidence that you need for your case. Finally, we're delivering deep mobile device visibility with EnCase Mobile Investigator. You'll have the deep visibility into applications, deleted data, text from images with OCR capabilities, and even cloud account accessibility with the appropriate permissions. We wanted to bring that same depth of visibility that we offered with our trusted computer forensic solutions into mobile forensics so that no evidence is hidden from the investigator. With that, I'm going to kick it over to Carl to walk through a use case with EnCase Mobile Investigator.
Our solution has 2 distinct components that work in concert to an examination of mobile devices. The first is EnCase Mobile Acquisition, whilst the second is EnCase Mobile Investigator. The former provides acquisition of a mobile device, which is launched from within EnCase Forensic or Endpoint Investigator, whilst the latter allows examination of acquired evidence. If we first focus on the acquisition of a device, we can see that a case has been created in Endpoint Investigator. If we focus first on the acquisition, you can see that we can acquire from a device, a physical handset or tablet connected to the forensic workstation, ingest content from a mobile device backup, such as an iPhone or BlackBerry, then given relevant credentials, acquire from cloud-based resources such as Twitter or Facebook. Today, we will look at the acquisition of an Apple iPhone, as well as a backup from an iPad, one where the encryption had been set. With a handset connected, and from this add evidence, we shall select Acquire from Device. Once selected, the usual dialog for acquisition appears, and we can enter details relevant to the investigation. If required, we can check the box to automatically load the evidence into EnCase Mobile Investigator as and when the acquisition completes. The acquisition wizard then launches, and the wizard will auto-detect the connected device, in this instance Apple iOS. Taking the auto-detected device, we can progress and are requested then to choose an acquisition type. For logical acquisition, a custom logical acquisition, we can make selections of data type to acquire, such as just a call history or messages. And where possible and device dependent, we can perform a physical acquisition. In our instance here, we will perform a full logical acquisition. The acquisition then commences, and on conclusion, it will be added into the current case. We can now turn our attention to the iPad backup. This time, from the Add Evidence menu, we should say Acquire Mobile and Acquire from File. As before, the usual dialog appears to allow us to input information relevant to this investigation and the acquisition. On conclusion, as we progress, we're presented with a dialog to allow us to select the file type we wish to acquire from. In our example here, we will take an iPhone backup. Keeping in mind that if stored locally on a suspect's computer, then they'll be located by default in the locations presented in front of you, both for Windows and for Apple Mac. As a side note, an N script exists that will automatically look within the evidence file and extract backups to the case export folder ready for acquisition as we are doing now. EnCase looks at the backup and determines the fact that it was indeed encrypted. If we enter the relevant password, EnCase will continue and will start to decrypt and acquire the backup. On conclusion, and if we hit finish, we will then have both pieces of evidence in the case, both for the iPhone SE and the backup that we've just acquired. Our next point of attention is to use EnCase Mobile Investigator to examine the content that we've just acquired and determine whether or not there's any evidence relevant to.
Thank you, Carl. What was just shown was a logical acquisition of an iOS device. This is the newest feature in EnCase Forensic and Endpoint Investigator 8.05. Carl will now show the examination of that mobile device evidence within EnCase Mobile Investigator.
Having completed our acquisition, we can now start a case in EnCase Mobile Investigator. So from the Case menu, Create Case, we can give our case a relevant name. In this case, ID card fraud. If need be now, we can add additional information about ourselves and agency, and then saving the case in a relevant location and making ourselves an EMI file. Once a case is created, we can now add the mobile acquisition we've done earlier, the EMA files, locating those now, in this case, for Phil Maltsnob and Sal Rakper. We have the option to change the name of the evidence if required. And then the processing wizard begins automatically. In this instance, though, I think we'll take the ability to cancel the wizard, so I want to show you what goes on without doing pre-processing. We expanded our case. We can now see our two pieces of evidence, the backup and also that for the iPhone itself. We can see quite happily what has been acquired for us from both the handset and also the backup. And keeping in mind the backup was encrypted, we get an area here for authentication data, producing ourselves a bin file where passwords have been decrypted from the keychain inside the iOS backup. This can be used later in EnCase itself to acquire content from cloud-based resources such as I mentioned earlier, Twitter and Facebook. Looking at where this has come from now then, we get areas for parsed data. We've looked at databases and the like and give you back information that you can quickly work through and identify. Look at passwords, for instance, and now look at general password data. These passwords have been decrypted from that iOS backup. And looking at Wi-Fi passwords, we can see a couple of Wi-Fi networks and also the passwords to authenticate onto those given networks. So then looking at this parsed data area, we can see that we have got various categories of information. The call history, the calendar, the address book, contacts, and then information for Safari and messages, iMessage for iOS and or SMS. As well as this though, would also give you access to the raw underlying content. In this case now, we're going inside var, and then mobile, and then library. We can see the fact we've got the underlying information for the SMS, which is messages up here, but also give you access to additional information you examine. So in this case now for iOS, if we were to look at Springboard, expand out Springboard, we can see a JPEG lock background thumbnail, which gives us a visual impression now of what the lock screen was like on Phil's iOS device. Also, we get one then for home background. So the home screen now, again, what you can witness there is the image that will be displayed on Phil's home screen of his iOS device. So if we now look at a Safari suspend state, now this will be the state of the Safari browser the last time it was suspended. So let's say, for instance, now the user presses the home button. We've got then, as we go into this area, the various records that shows us the tabs that are open in the browser. We can see now in front of us what we have. So we've got passports, Google searches, so as we look at Clark's Wallabies, Star Trek, more Google searches, then Google search there for the red arrows, Clark's Originals, grey Wallabies, and the Wallaby is a classic shoe, suede with a crepe sole. So we're looking at Star Trek, more Google searches, Windsor Castle, passport samples, an image, and then also then a PDF for false ID guidance. So keep in mind now that we can venture now into var, mobile, applications, and then looking for com.apple.mobile Safari. This now would be the underlying databases that support our parsed content for the Safari browser. So library, Safari, and then we have a database there, browserstate.db and historydb, where browserstate.db is Safari suspend state, and historydb is a Safari history. So if we look at the browserstate.db, and within the application EnCase Mobile Investigator, we can look at the SQLite database, the tables of that database, and the tabs table in question. What will be of interest here, and hence why I've brought you into the underlying database, is to glean some more information about the browser. If we come across the table, we shall see a column for private browsing. So drag that now across and put it next to or close to the URLs, and you'll see some has got the value of 0 and some have the value of 1. The 1 now for us indicates that this particular tab of the browser was being viewed in private browsing mode. So that was for Star Trek, for Windsor Castle, for Passport, private browsing. So the history would not be in the database, but at least here we've got something, a URL. So closing up applications, and then come back up to the parsed data area, and then just looking at the Safari history. Remembering this is coming from the history.db that I pointed out earlier, and you've got the various records indicating the browsing activity of Phil Maltsnob. And if we were to go through this history, we would not identify the Star Trek records, the Google searches for Windsor Castle, and some of those searches that we indicated when we looked at suspend state and highlighted then which tabs were being viewed in private browsing mode. So sitting in parsed data now, as one would expect, we have the usual categories of information, the calendar, the contacts, and bear in mind here that Sal Rakpur is the second suspect in our case. We have an entry in Phil's address book for Sal Rakpur. So again, this now parsed out of the relevant database that would be in VAR, mobile, and library with you in the contacts. The same as the calendar, but as we come down through the calendar, you'll also see now where the user has input their own content. In this case now, it might well be a sync from an online calendar, but look like some form of sporting events. There's some fixtures maybe what looks like for the game of rugby. And then one last entry here that I've got, Nando's on the 27th of June 2017. Start date and time midday till 1 o'clock. And Sal, Nando's. So perhaps Phil's going to meet Sal in Nando's. And if you're not familiar with Nando's, it's a chicken restaurant in the UK. So if we move forward with this then, and look at a few more features of the application. And if we look at categorized files, this was an option on pre-processing. Currently, we can see we got no objects that have been categorized, which is fair enough because we haven't run that option yet. But to categorize the files is where we've looked at the evidence and determined what sort of objects there. So databases, documents, graphics, messages, to allow you as the examiner to come across the categorized files and just hit on different categories and see all the pictures, see the spreadsheets, see all the documents, to allow perhaps a quick and easy triage of our evidence. Because we hadn't run this during the initial pre-processing phase when the wizard appeared automatically, we can right-click on the evidence, fill Multisnob's iOS backup, process items, and we can take the option to categorize from here. We should say finish. So one of the favorite ones normally is to look in the graphics, looking at gallery, and then seeing what graphics we've identified on this given device. And now also we've got some documents and PDF files, and if we take the option to look at one of these, we'll see that it takes us from the categorized area, now looking under var, mobile, applications, com.adobe, .adobe reader, and we can now see those PDF documents stored within the application. So moving forward now then, and I think we'll start to look at, in a moment, some keyword searching. And bear in mind currently that we've not performed any pre-processing, we've not asked the application to look at OCR, optical character recognition, and pull content out of graphics. We'll see that the keyword search is grayed out, because currently we don't have an index, but advanced search is present. So we take the advanced search option, and then looking at file system data, bear in mind we've not run the pre-processing to extract any text from graphics. The option exists here, which we can tick. We can perform the optical character recognition and find the data inside the graphics and keyword search them live, if you will. So back to the Common tab then, and I could type in my keywords individually, but I do have a pre-compiled text file with words of relevance. The words are loaded in, and we can see the individual words with the OR operator, so please find me objects with this keyword, or this keyword, or this keyword. So from that text file, all my keywords are loaded in, and my logic operator is OR, so this, or this, or this. So as we hit start, the keyword search will commence, the advanced keyword search, but the ones I want to highlight are those inside graphics. So JPEG and PNG are the two that I'm pointing to at the moment. So I can look perhaps at the actual file itself to see what it actually is. So coming down to File View, and it looks like to me, given an iOS device and PNG extension, it's a screen capture from the iOS device. I've got 4 hits. So the name Angela, once again Angela, and the final hit then in this file will be a passport number. Again, this is text-based information that's been extracted from that PNG graphic. Reference now down here to a hit inside a PDF. We then have sal rack per, so I was searching the whole of the case. A JPEG once again, and PNGs, but looking at that JPEG, I've got 1 hit, and in this instance now is for the name Robinson. Look at this one now, it's going to be a driving license. And there we have the word Robinson, line 1 of the given driving license. And then for a JPEG, lo and behold, we've got an actual passport. So again, keeping in mind that we didn't do any form of indexing or pre-processing, and whilst this may be taking more time to complete the keyword searching, at least you can see that if we ignore the wizard, using the advanced search, we can still do our keyword searching, particularly for textual content inside our graphics. So now then, what I would like to do is just to demonstrate to you what happens if we did do the pre-processing. So we say process items. I've already done categorization, so I'm going to untick those, but now I'm going to perform an index and also index the textual content from our graphics. That's finished. And now when I right click on the case, it means now that keyword search is now available. I'm loading the same text file as before that contains the same keywords as what we were searching for previously. And you'll see then that the search finished far quicker. Again, we can see we have got the hits inside our JPEGs. So whilst we have that content, it's not overly highlighting which one of the keywords has actually hit, albeit we know one of them has hit for us. So now we're going to conclude and just look at some message content. So when we look at messages, again, this has been parsed from the SMS database. We can see the actual text in the message. As you come across, though, you'll see that some of the messages do have attachments. So one of the lines there has got, I think, 5 attachments. Click on the hyperlink. It shows me here where the attachment is. So again, coming back to that message, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 attachments. Having looked at Phil, let's just see what's inside Sarah Per's messages. And as we look, we've got the same message that Phil was sending. And if we come across that message, we will have hyperlinks to our attachments. And there they are, the passport scans as before. And now, because we got Sal's database open, we have access to the tab for messages, for Sal, and the earlier one, still across the tabs at the top, will be for Phil. So just tidying up and collapsing that down, and now we've done some simple examination, or some examination of 2 mobile devices using mobile investigation.
Thanks, Carl. That was excellent. So just to recap, EnCase Mobile Investigator helps teams with their digital investigations involving mobile devices by providing them with an intuitive review of mobile evidence and streamlined workflows, support for over 26,000 mobile device profiles, and the enhanced visibility investigators need to find all the relevant evidence to close their case. Now, before we jump into the Q&A, I'd like to tell you a little bit about a program we at Guidance have put together for all of those in the forensic community, the Guidance Software Forensic Artifact Research Program. We created this program as a forum for digital forensic and security researchers to share information and be recognized for the important work they do. Forensic artifact research is critical for improving malware detection, the collection of evidence, improvements to enterprise security, and much more. We appreciate all of the research being done by the digital forensic community and at Guidance. We want to work with forensic researchers so we can improve our tools and solutions to make your jobs easier. And if any of you are interested in submitting forensic artifacts, you'll have a chance to win up to $5,000 and, of course, a Guidance Software Challenge coin. This is to reward forensic and security researchers for work they're doing for this community. Also, when you submit an artifact, you're the owner of that submission and you can publish those findings independently. Now we're going to be accepting submissions through August 30th, and if you'd like to learn more, please visit the link at the bottom of your screen or please reach out. Great. So at this time, we're now going to be taking questions. If you have a question for either myself or Carl, please send it to us using the Q&A window on your screen. I'm going to go through some of the questions here. Oh, here we go. So one of the questions that came in was, does EnCase Mobile Investigator support the latest iOS and Android operating systems? So the answer to that, yes. All of the latest firmwares are supported for both iOS and Android. The latest versions tested are iOS 10.3.2 and Android 7.1.2. If we have another couple questions here. Does EnCase Mobile Investigator unlock passcode secure mobile devices? The answer to that, yes. There are options within the tool based on the firmware versions of the device. There are also bootloaders available that are specific to device types that will also bypass the password and/or lock. Now, another question came in about apps. So what are the apps that are supported? Complete app data is available with SQLite viewers, and the user is directed to the data storage location in EnCase Mobile Investigator. Apps like Facebook, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Tinder, and much more are supported. For a complete list, please ask your solution specialist for a product FAQ sheet or our product user guide. If we have any questions. Carl, are there any other questions? We have a bunch of questions coming in, which is great. Carl, did you want to take a few as well?
There was a few coming through regarding the encryption on the iOS backup and device. Yes, the backup in the video was encrypted, and yes, you would need the password to actually decrypt that backup. To get that password, well, that comes down to whatever means you have to obtain the password. If you don't have the password for your suspect, well, then potentially using other tools, you can brute force or get that password by other means. But basically, for it to decrypt, you do need the password for that backup. The other one which came through, which I thought was a great question, was asking about the passwords coming out the keychain, I assume it was. And indeed, again, given the fact we had the encrypted backup, given the fact we had the actual password as well, yes, we were able to decrypt the keychain in the iOS backup, and yes, the inbuilt features of Mobile Investigator will give us back the actual password from the keychain, and then we have the authentication data package that we can export from Mobile Investigator and ingest that into EnCase 805 to allow us to authenticate and get content from cloud-based resources. If you don't have that, just to bolt onto that, you can use EnCase 805 to put in credentials for things such as Twitter, Facebook, Google for Gmail, Google Drive, and then you can pull content down from those as well. That's a couple that I saw. Raj, any more from yourself?
Yeah, I have a couple over here. So I got a question. How often is application parsing support updated? Now, each release includes updates to apps and the addition of new apps. So a couple of people asked that question. Here's another one. What kind of report output does EnCase Mobile Investigator provide? So the types of report outputs that Mobile Investigator provides are HTML, simple text, RTF, CSV, timeline, PDF, and a mobile data review report. Some more questions coming in about that as well. We have a question coming in about if Mobile Investigator is a separate license from EnCase Forensic. So EnCase Mobile Investigator is a separate add-on solution, as you know, with additional features and additional benefits for EnCase Mobile Investigator that are provided. So if you have further questions on that, I'd be more than happy to connect you with a solution specialist to give you more information regarding that. I actually got a question over here about our new Tableau product. Can you provide, I heard Guidance also released a new Tableau product. Can you provide some more information? So yes, in May we launched the Tableau TX1 Forensic Imager, which we're going to begin shipping to fulfill orders this week. Information for the TX1 can be found within the What's New with Tableau document attached as a resource to this webinar. We're also going to be hosting a webinar specific to TX1 in the second half of July so that you guys can learn more about it, and we'd encourage you to watch for this webinar and register to get an in-depth overview of the TX1. Now, Carl, did you have any other questions that you could answer at this time? And I just want to preface by saying we're going to answer all of your questions. If we don't get them answered on this call, we're going to follow up with everyone to make sure you get your answers, working with our solution specialists as well. Carl, is there anything else on your end, though?
Yeah, there's a couple more that I think I'll just answer, and also bolt on to your application support as well.
Sure.
So we had one coming in about a special write blocker. Well, no. So it's how to maintain the data integrity whilst conducting mobile forensics. Is there a special write blocker? No, there's not a special write blocker. You're performing the examination on a live handset. There's no special cables. You've just used the cable that would be supplied with the handset as per normal. So that one then, just to reiterate, no, there's not a special write blocker. We also had a couple regarding Celebrite data. Now, whilst I must admit now I've not ingested Celebrite data directly into EnCase myself, the function does exist within EnCase 805 to acquire from Celebrite cases. So again, not used up myself, but the feature is there if required to ingest Celebrite data. Raj also mentioned earlier on about application support. Please don't forget as well that we do have the raw data. So if we don't have built-in parsing, you should have access to the databases, the SQL databases, to perhaps look at that for yourself as well if we haven't got perhaps the application within the product. And that was a couple that just updated myself then a few moments ago. Raj?
Okay. Well, I think that's all we have for right now. I mean, we're going to make sure that we can follow up with all of you regarding your questions, and we really hope you enjoyed this webinar. We hope you learned a lot, for mobile forensics as well as our EnCase Mobile Investigator solution. We really appreciate the time, and thank you.
Raj, before you end it, I do just spot one last one that I want to just quickly reference, if that's okay?
Yeah, of course.
One came in then, for acquiring from cloud, what exactly would be collected? When it comes to cloud content, I've tested this with Google, so for Gmail, for Google Drive, and for Twitter. And the information that I pulled back was basically for Twitter, I had the profile information, I had direct messages, so the conversations are going through. When it came to Google, I had the inbox of my suspect, as well as then attachments, sent mail, and also from Google Drive, I had some files that were in Google Drive, as well as a file list. And keep in mind that you would need the relevant credentials to authenticate onto those cloud-based resources. I thought that was worth answering. Raj?
Thank you, Carl. Yeah, no, that's a common question that we were getting as well. I appreciate that. This time, I believe, we're up and, we answered several questions. We want to make sure that we'll follow up with all of you, as I mentioned earlier, and, we really appreciate the time again. Thank you, everyone.